Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be updating these pagination dots dynamically so they are based on the number of actual things, actual slots that we've got in our pagination rather than just being random. As you can see, there's a different dot highlighted here. That dot is now entirely done in code. So if I go and change a property here on the painting picker, the current page, I can set it to 1, which will actually be the second dot. Let's go ahead and hit play, and sure enough, the second dot is highlighted. So if you want to see how to do this, you better dive into the lecture right now and figure it out with me. So the logical next step along our plan is going to be to once we've calculated the number of pages, to put the right number of pages in. So also in this lecture, we're going to be doing the first step towards changing the currently active page, which is displaying a currently active page, but we're not actually going to be changing between it. They're just going to have the mechanism to store a current page and move on from there. So let's get started. First of all, I want to do a little mini refactor so you can follow along with this, and then I'm going to challenge you to do the next bit. So the first thing I want to do is that currently we've got a refresh that refreshes all the slots, and that's great, but this bit here that we're doing with the pagination dots clearly belongs somewhere else. That is about refreshing those pagination dots, not about refreshing the slots. And in the places where we're currently calling refresh slot, we probably want to be calling both of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple refresh method. It's going to be private still, called refresh, and another method called refresh dots, which is going to be called by refresh. So refresh is going to call both of them. It's going to do a refresh slots, semicolon, refresh dots, like that. So we do both the refreshes in one go. And then I can take this, or if I've got the right brackets, I can take refresh and call it in the places where we currently had refresh slots, which is on begin play. And if you remember, it's also after we add a painting, we need to refresh everything because you might have actually changed the number of dots. So we do have to refresh the number of dots as well. And I think this is the only two places where we currently had refresh. So let's check that. Yep, it's the only two places. All right, so that's good. Now we have to create an implementation for our refresh dots. So let's grab it, copy it over into the C++. I'm going to put it under refresh slots, refresh dots, and what we're going to have to do first of all there is do a clearing of those dots, but we're not going to do that just yet. I'm going to leave that as a challenge for you guys. One more thing we've got to do before the challenge is I want to add in some state. So let's annotate it as state, that we're going to have an int32 that stores the current page. And at the moment, it's not going to do anything. And we're going to start numbering from 0, 0 being the first page, 1 being the second page, so on and so forth. So that's going to be our current page. And you're going to need to use this variable to allow you to change the page. Okay, so that's one thing. We've got our refresh dots. We could make this blueprint editable just to make it easier for testing for you in a bit. So this is going to be edit anywhere, like so. Okay, and what are these other things? We've got, basically they're references, aren't they? So let's just annotate that section as well for the components. Component references, okay. So I'm happy with that little bit of refactor. Not much of a refactor, we just separated out refresh into this kind of super method here. So the next step is going to be adding 1 dot per page that we have calculated with our get number of pages. Now this is going to be your challenge to spawn all those dots. So you're going to add 1 dot per page. You're going to clear the pagination dots once you're finished. You're going to have to create some API for that. And you're going to select the current page and test it out to see that the current page is selected no matter what value you put in that U property. So pause the video and give this a shot. All right, welcome back. Let's do this 1 dot per page thingy. So first things first, we're going to have a for loop, I reckon. well, first of all, actually, we have to check that we've got a get painting grid, but we'll see that in just a second. So we'll do a for loop of int 32, I equals 0, I less than the, the get number of pages. So while I is less than the number of pages, we can increment I, and we are then going to add a painting using our get painting grid. Now this is the point at which I think you should notice that we should check for get painting grid to be null. So if get painting grid, if not get painting grid, I should say, then we're going to early return out of refresh dots, like so. All right, so that's fairly protected, and we've currently got it active. We're going to say inactive for the time being, but you'll see that change soon. And finally, we can remove from refresh slots the stuff that is doing our refreshing of the dots. Now, we want to clear out the dots before we begin, which we currently don't do, because in the definition of your painting grid, we've got no clear dots. So let's go and create a clear dots, because at the moment, so our painting grid has a get number of slots, it has an add pagination dot, it has a clear paintings, but it has no clear pagination dots. So we're going to do a clear pagination dots method, and going to copy the signature, like so. Go over to the C++, and I'm going to stick this underneath that add pagination dot thingy. So we still need to do an if not pagination dots, and then we need to simply clear the pagination dots. It's as simple as that, because we don't have the more complicated slot mechanism that we had for our card containers and so on and so forth. So let's do, pagination dots, plural is that way. Clear children is what I'm going to call. Simple. So we've cleared all the pagination dots out there. So that can now be called in our painting picker CPP just before we do our for loop. So we're going to do the get painting grid, arrow, clear, pagination dots, like so. So that's cleared it out, done the clearing of the pagination dots. Final step is to select the current page. We've got our current page here. And as you'll notice, I is ranging from 0 to 1 minus, or get number of pages minus 1. So that is the right number. So what I can do is I can simply say get current page is equal to I, will tell us whether the pagination dot should be active or not, because if we've got 0 page selected, then the 0 dot will be selected, etc. So we can go ahead and build that now and give this a try. While it's building, let's just have a go and see what we would expect to be the result. So having a look at my save games in the save game folder, I have still got 24 items, like at the end of last lecture. And if I do 24 divided by 9, I end up with 2.6. So I'm expecting 3 pages of dots, so 3 dots, and the first one to be selected. Now, because of the header file change, I might actually have to restart the editor, so I'm going to go ahead and close down the editor preemptively and wait for the compile to finish, and then I can reopen it. And when the editor has launched up, we should be able to go into, let's see, so we can select our painting picker, blueprint, and we should be able to somewhere here change the current page. Let me just search for it. Yep, we can change the current page. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, have a look, and we've got, sure enough, 3 pages with the first one being selected. Let me just go back to it. It keeps unfocusing. So also I should be able to add pages, and you can see, there you go, the dot gets refreshed and moves along one as I keep adding pages. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the 4th dot, which is number 3, current page number 3. So let's go ahead and select the current page number 3 in the details pane. Go ahead and hit play. And sure enough, current number 3 is the one that is selected. So pats on the back, we've created a pagination system that dynamically updates from the pages we've got in our system. and we're able to select the currently selected page. Obviously, at the moment, the slots themselves are not updating, and we can't change that number as of yet. But that is what we're going to change, because if you have a look at our progression order, the very next thing for us is going to be to change the currently active slot, and then we're going to be looking at displaying the correct slots. So dive into the next lecture to see how we're going to change the currently active slot.